Hey, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, I guess, right now. This is Coach Hager, and I'm here with Coach Shively.
Hello, everybody.
And I thought we'd take a chance to talk to him. I think one of the cool things about this one is Coach Shively joined us here a little bit into the beginning of our season, but I'm just getting to know him, and I figured this would be a good chance for you guys to get to know him as well. So we're gonna learn a little bit about him. And I'm gonna put this out there just as a disclosure here. So I realized when we first met that he went to Elizabethtown College at the same time that I was at Messiah, and at the time, not maybe as much anymore, but at the time that was a pretty big rivalry. So I just
It
full
was.
disclosure, I'm not holding anything against him, but over time, if things come up a little bit back and forth between us, um, you'll know why. It's an old college rivalry here.
Oh, yes. Oh,
So
yes.
um, all right, so we're gonna hop in. So just tell us a little bit about what's going on in your life right now.
Well, so for those of you who don't know me, I'm originally from Mechanicsburg. So back in the fall, my wife and I and our kids actually moved back to Mechanicsburg. I've been teaching for about 12 years, 11, 12 years. And last year in the spring, took a job at Mechanicsburg, coming back from I had been teaching in Maryland, coming back from Maryland, so it was a great opportunity to come home and go back to work at the middle school. And a couple months later, we bought a house and moved, and now I have three daughters who are at Broad Street and Elmwood, and between the three of them and the house, and I have two Irish setters, and my wife, we are pretty busy. So we have been redoing the house a little bit. Obviously, school activities, kid activities. My daughters are big into soccer, and also they were going to do track club. At the middle school, but unfortunately, that has been postponed. But that is what keeps us busy. Right now, it's a little bit different because we're kind of stuck here. So it's been a lot of painting, and I've been doing a lot of painting, mixed in with a little bit of painting. Just a lot of painting. I've been doing a lot of painting over the last couple of days, and I anticipate more painting to come.
Now, as a homeowner myself, I'm going to assume you mean painting the home, or are you painting for pleasure here?
Oh, no, 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 no. There is no painting for pleasure. It
Okay.
is all pain. It is all pain. As you can see behind me, this wall and that ceiling were recently painted. The trim is getting a fresh coat of stain, possibly this afternoon. We'll see. So painting, lots of painting.
Awesome. Well, enjoy that. I will commiserate with your feelings towards painting homes at this point.
Yes, I won't. Don't worry.
Cool. Cool. So you mentioned that you're from Mechanicsburg
Mhm.
and coming back to the area here. What brought you back?
Well, I obviously, I grew up in Mechanicsburg. My parents still live in Upper Allen Township. And what ultimately brought me back is just because my wife and I were looking for a place to sort of settle down. She had been in school. I had been in school. We had lived in multiple locations. And with our kids getting older, we decided we needed a place to sort of put down and say, okay, this is where we're going to live. And the more we thought about it, the more Mechanicsburg was the perfect location. And then when I got the job at Mechanicsburg, it was even better. And I know what a good place it is to live and grow up in, and we wanted that for our kids. And then part of that too is, you go looking for a place to live, and we walked in and found this beautiful old home in downtown Mechanicsburg. We're like, this is it. This is where we want to be. And it just so sort of happened to come together. It's always been sort of a goal, a dream of mine to get back to Mechanicsburg, just because this is where I grew up, and it's been really great. A little weird because some of the people that you guys have as teachers in high school were also my teachers. Ms. Shirey, Mr. Laudenslager, Mr. Harris was my social studies teacher, Mr. Keschner, these were people who played a big role in my education, and now I'm working with them. So it is a little weird. It's fun. It's fun, but it is, it's a little weird to see them in a good way, but just, it makes you think, a little bit like, wow, here I am back with these same people. And that's part of what drew me back to the community.
Well, that's very cool. I will say that I'm just old enough as a teacher that when I got hired at Mechanicsburg, I taught at Northern for a while. And
Mm-hmm.
when I got hired at Mechanicsburg, there was another young woman who got hired at one of the elementary schools who'd been one of my first students at Northern.
Oh
And,
no.
and it
Oh my
kind of
gosh.
hit me that, oh my gosh, I'm old enough now that like kids that I had in high school as their teacher are now adults and professional and things like that. So it's
Yeah, I've started to hit that point in life too, where the first group of kids that I graduated way back when in my first teaching job are now in their 30s with kids and families, and that's an unusual
it
feeling. Like,
is.
I remember when you were 16 and now you're 30. Wow.
Yeah.
It hits you a little harder the older you get.
It does. It does. Well, cool. So we're going to continue on this strain of Mechanicsburg. Um,
Sure.
because I'm only in my third year coaching here and being around this team. I'm interested to hear, and maybe some of our kids would be interested to hear, what was it like to be on the team here? What were some of the things you remember about being a part of athletics at Mechanicsburg and your experiences in that arena?
I loved doing athletics. I did sports year round in Mechanicsburg. I played football. I played baseball. I played basketball. And then there was track and field, and track and field ended up becoming one of my real loves. At the time, Coach Leonard was our head coach. And believe it or not, my throws coach was Coach Sue. She was my throws coach. I don't want to say that was like 15 years ago, but it was like 15 years ago. But she was my throws coach, and I really, really developed a love for the sport, in part because we got to build each other up, and in part because there was sort of an individual component to it, that your biggest competitor was yourself. And I really like that about track and field. And I have really great memories, because one of the cool things with track and field is I graduated from Mechanicsburg. I went to college at Elizabethtown, and then I would go to these track and field meets for both indoor track and outdoor track. I'd go to these meets, and guess what? I would see people that were on the Mechanicsburg team at these track and field meets, and it was like we got to catch up. And it wasn't what I really liked about it is it wasn't about trying to beat them or be better than them. It was about, what have you learned? What are you doing? Some of these different components. For example, my specialty in college was, I did all the throws, but my specialty really was shot put and javelin. And one of my teammates in Mechanicsburg went to Shippensburg and threw discus. And so every time we saw each other, I would be able to help, and we talked through javelin. And then, I still competed in the discus, and we would talk through discus. And it was this great camaraderie that sort of spanned not just high school, but into college. And that was what I really liked about it. And then even now, coming back years later, there are people that I still run into. It's like, oh, do you remember we did this in high school? Remember we went to mid-pens for this in high school, or things like that. And that was the really neat part about it. And the other fun part about it too was, with track and field versus other sports, you could really try some things out. Like, I wouldn't look at myself now and say, yeah, I was a jumper in high school, but going back to high school, yeah, I was a jumper in high school, because I was given free license to try that, to try something different, to try something new. Was I great at it? No. But did I try it, and did I put myself out there? Absolutely. And I think that's the other fun part about track and field is there are so many events. You can throw javelin, and then you can go run the 3,200 meter. You can throw shot put, and you can also be a long jumper. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I put this out here to all of you who are throwers. Just want to point out some of the best sprinters in college track and field also threw shot put, discus, and javelin. That explosion, we talk about it all the time, but that explosive energy, the guys running 100 meter also threw shot put, because they weren't fast much beyond 100 meters. Or in my case, I'm not fast much beyond 10 meters, but you can chug out for a little while, but you get that license to try some new things. So, if you thought about jumping, try it.
Yeah, it is one of the really cool things, the difference, especially in high school. Not that you can't do it in college, but I think that the chance for some of you, especially on this team right now, who are showing up saying, "I don't really know what event I want to do, but I want to try them." Like Coach Shively is saying, go do it, and we're set up to do that. And um, it's tough sometimes, I know, to manage practices and where am I supposed to be on what days, but there's no reason. I was kind of the same way. I'm a distance runner mostly, but I pole vaulted and I threw hammer in college a little bit, and
Yeah, hammer throw.
just some things that were fun to do because they looked interesting,
Yeah.
and it's different.
And that's and then you never know when you end up finding, one of the cool things is sometimes you end up finding yourself doing something you never thought. Like, I went to college and I was a thrower. That's what I did. And yet during indoor season, because we had some fewer students during indoor season, I ran the third leg of the 4x1 meter, dash. Just little things you never find yourself doing. That's the cool part about track and field, is if you find something that you're good at or something you're interested in, you can slot right in and do it.
Yeah, it's very cool. Well, what about outside of track and field? So we know you're a great house painter here, and we know you like track and field, but what else, what other kind of hobbies and interests do you have outside of that?
So my wife and I we work in the summers at a camp. And that is a big interest of mine. So we're big into hiking. I like to take, we like to take our dogs out, let them run around. I like to climb. Rock climbing is one of my all-time favorite things to do. I also like caving. If you've never been caving, I love to go into, there's a cave system over in Peckaway Valley called the Wind Caves, and they're unique because they're not like traditional limestone formed caves. They were formed by the movement of the faults, and so I'll take groups of kids in there just about every week all summer, and we'll jump and climb around inside the cave, and that's just one of my absolute favorite things to do. I do love sports. I enjoy sports very much. I am sad that there are no sports right now. But I like baseball. I was supposed to go tomorrow. I was supposed to be at opening day for the Baltimore Orioles. I'm a big Orioles fan, and my dad and I had tickets, and there's no opening day until who knows when. I for better or for worse, whatever you may think of me, I love the Baltimore Ravens. I'll put that right out there. Penn State. If you like Ohio State, don't even talk to me. Just go to someone else. I can't do it. No, I'm just kidding. I would help. Obviously, Elizabethtown, any Elizabethtown athletics. One of the really great things, this is for all of you who might get the chance to go and do collegiate athletes. One of the great things that I ever got to be a part of was what they called the Triple Crown Championship when I was in college. We won. Do you know what I'm talking about, Coach Hager?
I know.
Yeah.
I was there. Yeah.
Multiple times we won the men's cross country championship, the indoor track and field championship, and the outdoor track and field championship. And that was a cool feeling. That was very good to know that we were the best of the best of the best of the best. Not to remind you of that.
Yeah. I will say that in my I coached at Messiah for a long.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Afterwards, and we've well documented that my class coming through kind of dropped some balls there, and things got better pretty much immediately after we left. I won't,
I mean, Messiah was always our number. Messiah was and still is that was the number one rivalry. That was the good rivalry, even for small school sports. It was very good. It's something, guys. You can go to a small school and still have big time rivalries.
It is. I mean, we've watched athletes over the years that we'd be talking about. The person who's winning that conference meet is probably an All-American, and You've got All-Americans who are not able to win their conference meet because they're matching up with other people in there. So
Yeah.
there were some fun years in there. I know E-Town left the conference and went to other pastures, but
Yeah. We
it,
had some good times though.
it's still
Back
good.
in the old Mac conference.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, I mean, those are the things that make me tick. And then, I mean, at this point in my life, my kids do occupy a lot of my time. My two older daughters play soccer. My youngest daughter plays softball. Between the three of them, time's pretty busy now. Right now, nothing's going on, but nothing's happening for any of us, which is why we're sitting here talking via Zoom and not in person with all of you guys.
Exactly. At some point, I'll throw this out there. At some point, these interviews will happen face to face.
Hooray!
We'll do our best distancing right now to set an example. So what's something, so in all that, because I can kind of get a sense of the type of guy you are in those, and those activities you're with me up until the Ravens thing.
Oh, really? What, a Steelers fan?
I am a Steelers. I'm a Pittsburgh boy.
Guys are the worst.
But and Coach Rebuck might have some words about the Ohio State thing.
Oh, really?
He's
Okay.
an Ohio State guy.
Oh, is he? No,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I feel bad for him already.
Well, maybe we'll get the two of you on here at some point. We can chat that back and forth. But here's the other side of that. What would surprise people to know about you in all of that image as a sports guy, an outdoors guy? What's something that would surprise people?
I really, really enjoy gardening. It is something that is, my grandfather was a big gardener when I was a kid. And when I have the time, I don't often have the time to do it. But when I do, I really enjoy gardening. My wife spent a couple of summers volunteering with a nonprofit farm that grew food for the community. And so just, spending time digging around in the dirt and, growing vegetables or growing plants. That's something that I really enjoy. And it's not something I get to do as much as I'd like, but I hope someday to have a really beautiful garden with lots of flowers and nice landscaping. But for now, I've got, a mud pit thanks to 3 kids and 2 dogs. But I do like gardening. That's not something many people know about me, but I do like it.
Cool. Well, we're hearing that as a common thread, and maybe some people falling in love with that while we're home a little bit more. Maybe we'll have to start a nice track garden somewhere.
I like it.
I like it.
I support that. We'll grow the produce and then we eat it for power before we perform.
Perfect. Very cool. And so I'm going to leave you. This will be our last question here, and
Okay.
I'm going to have you turn it back a little bit. If you had one question for me, what would you ask?
Oh, that's a good question. What was one event when you were in high school or college that you wanted to do but you didn't feel like you could? What was the one thing? Like, for example, I'll go first. I always thought it would be such a rush to pole vault, but for someone of my size to pole vault, I would have needed a telephone pole. So what's that one event or one sport that you would really have loved to do but just never had the chance or were limited in some way in the ability to do it?
All right. So that's an interesting question. I'm glad you asked that. And this is not a cop-out, but I will actually say that one of my I won't say claims of fame because it doesn't make me famous at all, is that at some point I actually have competed in every event in track and field.
Cool.
And I conned a coach one time into letting me do a decathlon as well, which 2 days, 10 events for those of you unfamiliar with it. And in no way was I good at most of those things. But I did get the chance to at least try almost all of them for real. Some of them, like the 110 hurdles, like I'm a short guy, high hurdles, not a good match. So I did it barely, I made it through without completely making a fool of myself. But the one event, and I will say this in that light, I never in my life would have imagined that I would have been a hammer thrower. And we'll learn maybe at some point more. I'll talk more about my college track and field experience. But I remember we were at practice one day and we had a quad meet coming up,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a meet that I honestly, I forget what schools were all there now. But it was a meet we did every year, and the way we scored it was top 8 scored, but you could only score 2 kids per event. So even if, say, you had the top 12 5K runners in the race,
Right.
only your top 2 scored. So 2 kids from every school got a chance to score. And I remember one day our coach was coming through practice, and we were getting ready for that meet. It was about a week away, and he realized that we only had one hammer thrower on the team. And at the time, I was pole vaulting, and we had a bunch of other pole vaulters. And he was just kind of looking for ways to score some points in the meet, and figured, I don't really need to do anything all that special. 2 kids are guaranteed at least a point.
Right.
And so he looked at me and said, "Hey, go learn how to throw hammer, and get at least a point out of this." So I walked down to the throwing field over the hill at Messiah, and they taught me how to throw hammer. I'll tell you what, it's a blast.
It's a rush.
I am so sad we don't throw it in high school. I get why we don't, but I
Yeah.
learned how to throw hammer for about a week. I throw it, I think, later on at an invitational just to try it out again. But the one thing, and this I always remember now, they didn't teach me how to get in and out of the circle the right way.
Scratch?
So I remember throwing my first throw and feeling real all pumped and excited about it, and then just walking right out the front of the circle. And my throwing coach is over there on the side. He just kind of dropped his head, realized, like, yeah, little details. So sometimes, and I'll say that as a coach, I know sometimes I miss some details, but sometimes we're a little detail oriented for those
Okay.
reasons. There are sometimes things that
Oh
you
yeah.
don't know, but that's probably the one that, as I look back on my career, and I will say, for a few years I was on the top 10 all-time hammer throw list at Messiah. It was a great pride to me when they finally bumped me off that list, because it was for me to still be there. But for a couple years I held on, and
That's
that's the one that I think I look back at as probably the one I never would have expected in my time.
that's a good one. And for those of you who have never had that, if you get the chance, hammer throw is an absolute rush. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it is a shot put that is connected via a metal string. It's not a string, but like a metal wire to a handle. And you wear a special glove and you just absolutely spin that thing around your head and throw it as hard as you can, as far as you can. It's an absolute rush. And with that, then there's also the bag weight indoor. And do they do bag weight in high school for indoor or not?
Only at things like nationals.
Okay.
I think in New York, I think they throw those events a little bit more.
I mean, that's another one that's fun. And again, anyone can do it. The best bag thrower in the MAC when I was in college was this scrawny little guy, but he was so strong through his core that he could get himself in this tight little ball and just absolutely launch that bag weight. But yeah, imagining you as a weight thrower or as a hammer thrower is kind of fun.
It's there's a video somewhere of it. Probably not online, probably on somebody's computer at home, but maybe I'll try to find that someday.
That would be good.
And watch it.
That would be very good. Be very good. I vote that I also have long wanted them to like institute more throwing events. Like, how cool would it be to have a caber toss? And if you don't know what the caber toss is, it's just a big 6-foot long log that you launch as far as you can. That really speaks to me as a fun event.
You've got I grew up in Edinburgh, and there's a Scottish games.
Nice. Yes. Yes.
The rock throw and the caber toss, and it's pretty cool.
That's what I'm talking about right there. That's good stuff.
Maybe once all this is over and we're able to get ourselves back out there, we can find some ways to do some of those fun things.
I like it.
Over the summer and stuff with some of you kids.
I like it. I like it very much.
Very cool. Well, hey, Coach Shively, thanks for chatting with us today.
Absolutely.
I'm sure we'll get to know you more over the coming, hopefully, weeks and months, if not years. But thanks for taking the time to sit down and chat and
absolutely
enjoy the rest of your housework today.
Yeah. Thanks.
Make sure you take a little bit of time to slow down and take some break in there too.
Yeah. Well, and my message to you and to everyone else is that, you know, this is frustrating for all of us, but we'll get through it. It will be okay, and we just have to sort of take things one day at a time. So I will keep trying to put out, you know, find some exercises you can do at home and put them out there. And you know, I'm on Google Classroom. I'm in, you know, I have the school email. So if you guys have questions, you know, send me a question. You know, I get stir crazy myself. Like I'd like nothing more than to be outside and throwing and running with everyone else. So hopefully this passes soon and we'll get back at it.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. Hey, have a wonderful day today, and we'll see you tomorrow for another one.
Bye guys. Take care.